Hi and welcome to the third part in this AnatomicAligner tutorial series. In the previous video, we went over the creation of 3D models from our cleaned up masks. I quickly generated the remaining 3D models since we only covered soft tissue in that video. However, the process is exactly the same for the other models. To begin, I wanted to quickly go over these icons here to the right of our 3D model viewport. These are for our orthographic projections, so we have left, right, top, bottom, front, and back. With that, let's get into the creation of our IANs. I find it best to declutter this workspace a little bit first, so let's ensure the visibility toggle for all of our masks is off. We already did that. And let's ensure the only 3D model visible is our mandible. Then let's also adjust the transparency of our mandible here by clicking the Edit Transparency, ensuring that mandible is the 3D object highlighted. Set that to about 75 or 80, just so we could see the nerve as we're drawing. We see the transparency is now 80. And now let's click Draw Inferior Alveolar Nerve, which is the icon, last icon in the 3D object panel. And we'll get this pop up here. Let's start with our right IAN. In our axial or our coronal view, you'll find sometimes it's easier to see in your coronal versus your axial, but it's really dependent on your scan quality. Since this patient's left mandibular cavity is difficult to read on this scan, I'll be using both. We need to scroll to locate the mandibular foramen. Let's do that. Let's also zoom in just so we can make more accurate selections here and just see more clearly. So let's find that. It's about right here, and we'll start with at a point. We'll place our points down, and we'll see that these aren't really points but rather enclosed geometries with a radius. This radius is the nerve thickness, and it's default at 1.3, so let's leave it at that. We can scroll down our mandible in the axial view, and adding a point every so often. We don't have to do this for every slice since the points create an interpolated geometry, and we can see that in our 3D model. We'll click within that mandibular cavity to complete drawing this right IAN. Once we've done that, we can press Close and Save to create that new 3D object. But first, we also have Edit Point. So if we highlight a certain point, it'll jump us to that. We can press Edit Point, and then we can move this point around. Since we don't need to, let's return back to the original location there. We also have Delete a Point. We can adjust the radius of a certain point. Clicking that, we'll want to get out of edit mode, adjust radius, and we can change our radius there. We can also apply our changed radius to all points, and we can also move points up and down throughout this order. So since this IAN has been drawn successfully, we can press Close and Save, and now we can view it in our 3D model. We'll get the new nerve here under 3D Objects, and we'll want to rename this one to Right IAN. So I went ahead and repeated this process for the left IAN. With that, we have successfully created the 3D objects for both of our IANs. We can set our mandible's transparency back to 100, and we can view those objects here.